Well, a very good morning to you. Welcome. This is Morning Express. Thank you for making time on this very last Friday of the month of January. Our first time has flown by, usually what is regarded to as the longest month in the year. It has been long politically, and we'll be right here to delve into the issues that seem to arise with the political rhetoric going round in the country. Not just that, we take a look at other developments as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we get to start your day in style and also usher in your weekend in style. My name is Jesse Rogers. Once again, thank you for making time. Before we take a look at the locals, the local dailies rather, I just want to take a look at the latest from the international scene first. We begin in East Africa with the Daily Monitor from Uganda, just highlighting some of the latest developments from our East African neighbors. Now let's take a look at what has been highlighted right there. Scientists upbeat about Uganda's COVID-19 drug. This as medical experts say if the trials are successful, the drug will be Uganda's first contribution to the world in terms of medicine. Good news coming from Uganda right there. Even as new MPs actually probe 480 billion forced on BOU in the 2021-2022 budget. That's the Bank of Uganda, in case you're wondering. But we'll definitely get more details on that. That's the latest from Uganda. Let's cross over to the Citizen, highlighting what's happening in Tanzania. And obviously the big news coming after the remarks of President Magufuli. What next for Tanzania after President Magufuli cautions his population against COVID-19 vaccine? Now, the African Union recently announced that it had provisionally secured roughly 270 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to all its 55 member states through the African Vaccine Acquisition Task Team. Now, this is interesting times we're living in, even as Magufuli throws caution to the wind and actually tells his citizens not to be too excited about the COVID-19 vaccine. We'll see how this plays out, even as they have just come from the election. He's serving his new fresh term, the second term. We'll definitely keep our eyes peeled on our neighbors in Tanzania. Taking a look at Rwanda right now. It's all about the vaccine. The African Union has secured 400 million more vaccine doses, sort of similar to what I just mentioned earlier, touching on the African Union. Even as that happens, scientists warn target to reduce HIV infections could be missed. That's still on Matters Health. So some of the news coming out of Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania right there. I'd like to take a look at the international scene now, or rather before that, let's take a look at the East African, yes. All states now join Somalia's electoral process. As you well know, elections are around the corner. Puntland and Jubaland released names of the electoral committee, is in one of the hardest of holding elections in Somalia. Even as that happens, Rwanda, rather, has been ranked 6th globally in COVID-19 management. Well, that's interesting. Bearing in mind, Kenya has been ranked 48th and Uganda ranked 30th. Interesting times we live in. Let's cross over to the international scene now, taking a look at what CNN has captured at this particular hour. A little bit of photography going around there, but even as we highlight that, if we can scroll down just a little bit, yes, we have a couple of issues arising from Europe, Middle East, and Africa, even as the German officials say AstraZeneca vaccine shouldn't be given to over 65s, citing lack of data. So a lot going on internationally centered on the rollout of the vaccines. You know, Kenya is also readying itself to for the vaccine to actually give it to its population. We'll see how that goes by. Let's take a look at the BBC now. And there we have it still on the COVID vaccine. The new COVID vaccine shows 89% efficacy in the UK trials. This as UK was one of the countries to first roll out the vaccines with its population. Various leaders led that particular drive, but a lot is still happening. Why is the EU's vaccine rollout so slow? It's also captured with the BBC, even as Biden allows US aid for global abortion providers. Get much more right there. We'll definitely keep you updated about what's happening locally, but you can grab more information on what's happening around the world right there. All right, that's the latest in terms of international news. We now want to cross over to the local dailies, taking a look at what has been highlighted on the Standard newspaper. We also have the Daily Nation right here. And if time allows us, we'll also canvass what the Business Daily has to say about the state of the economy in the country. I'm not alone. It is an early morning, but Professor Gitile Naituli has definitely made time for us. Good morning, Professor. How are you?
Good morning.
Well, thank you so much for making time. Welcome to studio. He's a former NCIC commissioner and definitely a familiar face right here. We'll also be joined shortly by Elijah Njoroge, who's an MCA of the Ruiru Biashara ward. All this in regards, we well know the focus right now is in the county, specifically the members of county assemblies, as they actually get to determine the path we will take with the BBI, that constitutional amendment bill. We'll definitely get to delve deeper into that later on. Let's start with the latest on the Standard, the front page. Uhuru Ruto allies clash on Sagana. That's the big story, even as we anticipate the meeting to take place tomorrow in Sagana, led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, on terms of the presidential agenda, MPs left out of Uhuru's talks with Mount Kenya leaders have penned a long, hard-hitting letter on issues they want addressed. As Jubilee Vice Chair David Murathe issues a very tough warning. So it's interesting times. That's the main story in front of the Standard. And I'd like to begin on that note. Professor Gitile Naituli, have you read that particular letter penned by the 41 members of Parliament from Central Kenya?
Yes, I've read the letter.
What do you make of it?
First, I think these people shouldn't have been invited because they were not invited. Usually, the kind of people to attend that meeting is the people who don't agree with you, so that will persuade them to take your position. So, in a sense, they're correct, but they are also alleging in that letter that they won't accept anybody imposed on them, including Raila Odinga. That too is correct, because nobody should impose anyone on them. But I think the letter probably, the benefit of the letter is outlines the thing they think it should be done for the people of Mount Kenya. In that respect, you can consider that as a positive feedback for the meeting. But I strongly feel that we should not create divisions, that these people shouldn't have been invited, and then be persuaded when they are seated there to join the BBI bandwagon.
Well, if only politics was that accommodating. But among the issues that were highlighted, and we'll get to canvass this later on in totality, just taking a look, economic ruin, guaranteed minimum returns. They also talked about the issue of politics of deceit and betrayal. Obviously, what you mentioned about imposing a leader on them, touching on Raila Odinga, the politics of persecution of leaders, and the succession management. This definitely seem to be the areas of focus right now, according to them. What do you make of this?
The political deceit, I've talked to some of them. They feel that the BBI proponents are not honest with the Kenyans. They feel, for example, they are told the counties will get that 5%, but they know the current constitutional provision It says not less than 15, meaning you can even give 70% if you want.
Yeah.
So they say that's not an argument in selling BBI. That's fraud, according to them. They also argue very strongly that they are not being told which mischief is being cured by the changes to the constitution being proposed. They are just told we are changing this and we are changing that,
yeah.
but then you are not being told what exactly it is that you need to prevent from happening. So they think that is inaccurate, and then they also feel that the question about inclusivity is also misleading, because nothing in law that prevented anyone from including anyone in the current setup in government information, but also there are complaints also, in the current economic challenges, they feel that a smaller government, a thrust towards a smaller government would have been more appropriate. They are planning to think that what the Kenyans actually want is a good government, not more government, and then the BBI is giving them more government. So these are some of the bone they want to pick, or the beef, if you like, they have with the whole process. And that's why I'm saying that the best thing to have done was invite them and then convince them why their position is not right, so that you move them in the right direction.
Exactly. Well, we'll definitely monitor what happens in Sagana. Also bearing in mind, this is the third such meeting held in that particular area that has been synonymous with mountain region politics. But away from that, we'll get to canvass that later on during this particular show. Something that has also been highlighted on the Standard is also touching on politics, page 8. Raila, I am not against the church and donations. That's what he mentioned yesterday as he dismissed those he accuses of painting him as a person who does not believe in God, and urged religious leaders to support the BBI. Professor, the church has been quite vocal on this stand. Even as Raila was meeting these leaders, other church leaders just voiced their opinion, mentioning that their views were not accommodated in the BBI and they're still against it. So the church definitely has a role to play in this particular constitutional process. What make you of the divergent views coming from the church?
The church is supposed to be moral authority on society. It is a moral compass. It's about to direct that to good behavior. It's about to direct that to serve society and not serve ourselves. But I want to say that the church has been, is not, I don't know when they say their views were ignored, but who would have ignored the views of Bishop Okulu or Alexander Muge? Or Reverend Njoya, or Bishop Ndingi Mwananseki. These fellows went to sleep. They forgot their role as guardians of society. Now they are waking up too late. What are their views, if I may ask? They are supposed to make those views public, so we can understand what position they took. But now they are coming and Johnny come lately, if you ask me. But it is never too late for the church to take its rightful position and guide the society, because the church, we all belong to one of these churches.
Quite so.
We ascribe spiritual authority to them. So if they can now come up and guide us, we will be better off. But their role has been diminished for a very long time, which I have never understood what has been the reason for it. Well, and I think the reason is probably they have joined us in our corrupt practices, which they should never have joined us.
Exactly. They should be the moral, the moral authority in this particular, the moral compass. That's the word, Professor. But also, it's also encouraged that leaders should stomach divergent views.
Correct.
So if it's a conversation, if it's a national conversation, and we're not bringing in these divergent views from the church, from the maybe 41 MPs from Central, are we really pushing the message of unity as a whole? Professor?
No, I think unity, in my opinion, push the message of unity is to accommodate those who differ with us. Usually, even when nations negotiate, they don't negotiate with their friends, they negotiate with the people they are differing with. So bringing these people in my opinion, is very important. Especially within the Mount Kenya region, those who disagree with the BBI, because that's what it is, it's very important they are brought in the agreement. They are brought in, they explain their position, then you explain yours. These are intelligent people.
Okay.
You bring your point. So what you want is them to take your view so that they can support you. The other are supporting you, they're already supporting you, so you don't need those ones. They're already with you. What you need, like Jesus said, is that one sheep which is lost, bring that one home.
All right, I cannot argue with that. Okay, Professor. And it's also proper to note that Elijah Njoroge is with us. He's the Member of County Assembly for the Ruiru Biashara Ward. Thank you so much for making time. And I'd like to begin on that note. We've seen a lot happening, especially in the mountain region, just this week in terms of the BBI. Let's start on that particular note. 41 MPs penning a message to President Uhuru Kenyatta, airing some of their views and the divergent views, actually, in terms of the agenda for that particular meeting on Saturday. What's your take, Elijah, as we start off?
Thank you very much. My name is Elijah Njoroge, MC for Ruiru Biashara Ward, Kiambu County, and also the Kiambu County Jubilee Caucus Chair. And I must say that I'm very happy because I'm here.
All right.
Sagana meeting is happening today and tomorrow. Today we are starting with the president meeting the MCs from Mount Kenya region, and tomorrow he's meeting the politicians and also the members of the public tomorrow, and the meeting is happening tomorrow. Of course, you don't expect anything else. The business is drumming up for BBI to be supported in Mount Kenya region. And when you hear some people complaining that they have not been invited, it is the defiant Jubilee members who have not been invited, because there's no need to invite people who don't want to be invited. Yes.
Are you not inviting them because they don't want to be invited or because they hold divergent views? We have to get that clear, Mheshimiwa.
As far as we are concerned, yes, BBI is a public document and also a public process. We cannot take and spend our time looking for people who don't want to be involved, who are fighting BBI. We are now interested in the people who want to support it and who want to take this country to the next level.
Exactly. You sound like those who are encouraging the other camp to start a no campaign already, right? All right. Well, we'll definitely continue conversing those matters even later on. Right now, we're highlighting what has been covered on the papers. That's just part of the political stories on the Standard. Make sure you grab yourself a copy. But veering off from politics, something that also touches on our day-to-day lives, the virus has actually cut 82 billion shillings from the economy in just 6 months. That's the harsh reality we're living in. And this one or the other definitely affects the political mood in the country, because development is what Kenyans are insisting on. So taking a look at this, Professor, we have various sectors that have been ravaged. The tourism sector, just to mention a few, the hospitality industry. Going forward, looking at these numbers, and we discussed about the economy earlier on and the projections for the next economic year. What say you about all this?
The economy was already in trouble before the virus, so you can understand that this is really going to present a very big challenge to the country to get out of this situation. And I don't know how we actually are going to get out. I think this challenge is going to last longer. I know that it took Kibaki, I think, less than, a very short time to fix an economic situation which was similar. But this time, you remember, Kibaki was working with 1.8 trillion in debt accumulated over 50 years.
Yes.
Now you are working with over 9, it's going to be over 9 trillion very soon, 80.6 currently, as we speak. So this is a challenge, I think, for the country. And we seem to think that taxes solve our problem. Taxes don't solve any problem. Taxes will make higher taxes makes the situation even worse, because the higher the tax, the less actually you collect. So we need the government need to have a think tank.
Okay.
And a think tank that is will quietly try to figure out how do we deal with the challenge, because the COVID, the lockdowns and all that is what created this situation.
Yeah.
And it appears when I look at what is now happening in the country, in the opening of the schools and the universities, maybe we should have got the Magufuli. It appears that somehow God is with us, protecting us, because I don't see how we protecting the people in Madare, people in Gorogocho in the slums, people out there in the villages. When I go around the country, I don't see the Ministry of Health, the protocols being observed anywhere. And certainly they are not being observed in the schools. And the people are not dropping dead in the streets. I think on that respect, we have been extremely lucky. But the government also panicked. You can't blame the government for the measures they took in locking it down. That was necessary to protect the population. Okay. But moving forward, we need to think what to do with this economy, because this is a very big challenge.
Quite so. Even as you were talking about the COVID issue, page 3 highlights that 1 in every 3 Nairobi residents has had COVID-19. Well, the numbers and the statistics there for us. Njoroge, let me come back to you. On the issue of the economy, even as you add your voice to this, one of the issues that those of divergent views against the BBI is that the economy has ravaged the country. The timing of this particular constitution amendment is questionable, especially since what should be the priority right now, enabling the common mwananchi. What do you say to this?
Thank you very much. BBI, as far as we have COVID-19, I want to agree that COVID-19 is a pandemic and it's affecting our economy. And as far as we have the pandemic, we also need BBI. We need the amendment. Because when we have the pandemic, the people are calling us, the leaders, asking for roads, asking for good health, asking for bursaries, and asking for other necessities. And we must acknowledge that it is not the pandemic that will provide those things. It is the constitution that will provide those things. We must provide laws and come up with laws that will give our people money and funds on the ground. Because like now, if you're looking for money today and your local leaders, the MCs don't have money, even a single shilling, money enough even to give hungry people food, the pandemic is not helping us. So what we want to say is that as far as we are dealing with the COVID-19, we also should deal with our economic problems, which will be solved and should be also handled through the COVID-19, through the BBI process.
All right, so BBI has the answers of what we're facing right now.
Yes.
Professor, well, why are you smiling?
Well, because what the question is, question of lack of money, and changing the constitution does not create money. I don't know where in the BBI we have the economic, the solution to the economic problem. I don't know which clause of the BBI. What I know is that the BBI came as a result of a disputed election, meaning that Article 86 of the Constitution was a bigger problem because we didn't trust the process, or rather the opponents to Jubilee did not trust the process, and the BBI provides nothing about Article 86. There is no bill attaching, no bill making it serious, prescribing. I mean, what I mean is electoral crimes bill. Very prescribing stringent and a very serious punishment for those who meddle with our election. That doesn't exist. I don't know which clause actually helps us fix this economy in the BBI. I think we shouldn't mix things. If you want to settle the BBI, let's be truthful and stick to what in the BBI helps organize the society. Because the organization can lead, a proper organized society can lead to economic growth. Because it enables the investors, whether local or international, to predict the future. Money doesn't like insecurity. Money wants to be secure. So people with the money to bring it here, they need to be able to predict what will happen in 50 years from today in the country. And they trust us with their money and their investment.
And stability is
the key. Stability is the key to that peace and stability. That is, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know which clauses in the
It's
BBI
good.
are guaranteeing that.
I can mention.
Kindly, yes.
I can mention and say that when I talk about BBI facilitating economic growth and also bringing funds to the ground, I must quote clearly and say that BBI is bringing funds, 5% of the county allocation to the grassroots, to the MCAs. I am an MCA myself. I've been serving my people without any allocation. And my people have been calling me to solve problems and I don't have any allocation.
Yes.
When that money comes to the MCAs across the country, the money will help the people.
All right.
And I must also say that when we talk about the government, the national government adding 15% allocation to the counties, it is money enough. For example, Kiambu County, we received 10 billion shillings a year. And we are now, if we pass BBI, we are going to be receiving 16 billion shillings.
Okay.
That is money to the ground.
Okay, so
Yes.
allocation definitely goes up, and we'll get to delve deeper into this particular matter, especially the carrot that is being in front of the MCAs in terms of the Ward Development Fund and whether this will actually go through.
Yes.
But apart from that, as we touch on yet another issue in the country, on page 12 of the Standard, the school fires that are raging on as reports on safety rot, as a task force called for streamlining of boarding schools and establishing guidance and counseling departments. Well, this is interesting because the students' unrest has definitely been highlighted right now, even after the COVID-19 pandemic. But it definitely goes way back. It hasn't started right now. But what brought us to this point, Professor? How do you think we can manage our children in these institutions better?
You know, we have a social problem that we have refused to look at for a very long time. We are growing a society without a father in this country. And some of the children, they are expressing themselves in violence in nature because they can't do it at home. What has been happening here, for a normal society, the family need to be extremely solid. You need the father in the house, you need the mother there. These are role models. Now, this is what is happening in this country. The father is absent even when he's present. Most of the times in this city, you stop, if you, like Nairobi West, it's called the drinking capital of Kenya.
Yeah.
5 o'clock is full of men. They are having all their time. They will go home when the children are asleep. By the time you wake up in the morning, you go to work, the children go to school. So they never see you. They always deal with their mother. On a Sunday, the mother takes them to church. You came at 3 a.m. because you are drunk and nothing the hangover. Okay?
Yeah.
So this idea, this society is becoming a single mother society, even when the father is at home. Now, this is dangerous. When the children cannot confront their mother to want to know where their father is, eventually when they go to school, they will ban the school. Say there's a indiscipline. The indiscipline is starting from our homes. I think it needs to be dealt with. The other issue you are seeing here also is the economic, economic pangs, which are hurting. And when they are hurting, the children don't figure out how to express themselves. Yeah. So we need to look at this thing in a bigger way. The recklessness they see with us, with their leaders, okay? The lack of sincerity and honesty. I mean, I just heard the MCA here, and I think he's a clever, he's a leader. He should know what the Constitution says about the money going to the county. The Constitution says not less than 15. He should ask himself what does not less than mean. It means you can give 70, you can give 80. But you see, our Linda is telling us with a straight face that BBI will increase allocation to 35%. So also, there's an educated society. So when we lie to these children so openly, they get confused. They don't understand where to draw the morality line.
All right.
So all this need to be looked at if you are going to fix our society.
Elijah Njoroge, even as you reply, what's your take on this as well? Number one, I want to agree with the professor that we need to advise our children, and also I want to add and say that fires in schools have not started today. It has been there throughout, and it's good to say that schools must also come up with ways to have intelligence, to know, to be able to be knowing when these things are being hatched, when these plans to ban schools are being hatched, because we have always been dealing with the results and not intelligence. We should introduce intelligence in schools so that we can be knowing what our students are planning. Our students cannot be smarter than us, and it is also the duty of the school and the principal and the administration to know what the children are thinking and what they are saying and what they are just about to do. And also, I must say that when I'm speaking as a member of County Assembly, I'm speaking from my mind. So, Professor, just know that I'm speaking in my possession. I'm at work even now. Okay. MCAs work 24 hours, and I'm speaking as an elected person and also a Jubilee Chair. Caucus, County.
All right, all right. But still on the school indiscipline, and something that throws the spanner in the works. Yes. The CS wants the cane back in schools to tame learners' lack of discipline. Yes. Briefly, let's start with you, Njoroge. Do you think this is a proper reactionary way due to the student unrest we've seen in the schools barely 3 weeks after reopening?
Yeah, it is a good. You know, when you have the docket, education docket, you are free to make any decisions that you want. And as far as I'm concerned, the minister is right, the department is right, and whatever they are saying should be followed to the letter, so that we can be able to deal with the issue.
But we have children's right of education, right, Professor?
Yes.
Yes, and I don't really agree that you needed the cane. I have two very successful children. I've never beaten them even one day.
Even once?
No.
Okay.
You sit down and talk to them like in grown-ups because you are there. You need to be present. This is a parenting question. When it comes to you beating the child has only transgressed against the regulations of the school or of society. So what we need to emphasize here, and I think this is very crucial, you know, in this country, the teachers are actually parents. We have surrendered our role of parenting our children to the teachers. Now we want to tell them to go out and beat. That's not going to correct anything. I think we need to look very carefully what has gone wrong in this society in terms of the family unity, because something is wrong. And that this behavior is not normal of these young people. Usually, when do they take those extreme measures?
All right.
These are questions that we need to answer.
Okay. We'll definitely continue transversing this particular topic, even as The Nation on page 12 says bolster counselling to rein in on school unrest. Well, apart from that, briefly, we definitely have to talk about the COVID vaccine issue and the pandemic war that is going on. The state is in talks with AU in a bid to finalize the COVID-19 drug program, but something that might hamper the quick acquisition of this particular vaccine by Kenya. This is due to the European Union actually making a decision to block exporters of the drug rather, and this might hamper the access to the vaccine. Briefly, gentlemen, your take on the challenge ahead in terms of mobilization, in terms of rollout of the vaccine, whether it will be free or not. What say you? Briefly, Professor Gitile Naituli, I'll start with you.
I think, you know, we don't manufacture this vaccine here in Africa. We're relying on the Europeans to buy from them. But I want to say very clearly that I believe in science. I trust the science. But at the same time, I'm just looking at the death rates of COVID compared to the other diseases, or even compared to the road accidents. The road accident is killing more people per day, at least if we have to trust the government statistics, than COVID. So what does this mean? This means that we may not even need the vaccine, because right now, given the nature of our response, people should have died in their millions in the slums, in the villages, and given the fact that we didn't even take the Ministry of Health and Guidelines protocol seriously, the moment the politicians started having all these big rallies without protocols, other people also abandoned it because we seem to take cue from our leaders. And we have not seen the extent to which the challenges the Europeans and the South Americans are facing. Now, given that, I wouldn't risk or pay too much attention to the vaccine. I would probably pray more.
Oh my, you sound familiar. You're sounding so much like President John Pombe Magufuli, professor right there. But I'll allow Njoroge, briefly, your comment on this as we head towards a short break.
Yeah, I join Professor by saying that COVID-19 has been there and is still there, but it's not very strong as it was sometimes back. And vaccine, people are waiting for the vaccine because they also fear the pandemic, but people are fearing that the vaccine could start a new business, like the way we had KEMSA issues and the rest. Yeah. So people are fearing if, number one, they will afford the vaccine, number two, if it will be distributed to them free of charge, and if it will also cure the problem, because we have had 1 year talking about COVID-19 day and night, and people now are tired. People don't even now remember there's nothing like, there's something like that. You can see people now in political rallies, they don't have masks, they are not sanitizing, they're not washing hands. And as far as Professor is blaming the politicians for gathering people, I also blame the people themselves because they take themselves to the political rallies. Yes. And they are not invited by anyone, and they are not forced. Okay. There's no bullet pointed at them.
That's proper.
So they should also consider that they are responsible for their own lives. And
well, it's a sign of the times we live in, and it's just getting heated up, the political tone in the country. So we'll definitely monitor that. Gentlemen, let's take a short break right now. That's what has been covered in the dailies. Make sure you grab yourself a copy to be adequately informed, but do stay with us. You're watching Morning Express, 36 minutes past 6 a.m. Good morning. We take a short break.